Of the Town of Camden. Our meetings are live streamed on YouTube at Town of Camden, Maine. And if you do wish to participate remotely and join the Zoom webinar, you can click on the live link that's on the agenda, and you will be admitted by the administrator of the webinar. So our first order of business is public comment on non-agenda items. Does anyone wish to speak on a non-agenda item?
I do.
John, welcome.
I have a question first.
Yes.
Are you gonna allow comment tonight about, people have a lot of questions about what's going on?
Mhm.
I know you have the agenda item before. So is that gonna be considered the same thing? Do we need to wait till the agenda item comes up, or can we talk about this during non-agenda?
I would have you save it as an agenda item. This is just non-agenda items, but you will be allowed to speak to agenda items.
Okay, well, we can't. If we talk about the issue
Mhm.
versus the person you're hiring one way or the other, they're two separate items, correct? Because you're not gonna be discussing the direction the community wants to go in.
There are a lot of aspects to it, and I think that we're open to getting the sense of the community. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that because the language of the, what are we calling it? A proclamation, or that we're, the what?
The agreement.
The agreement is quite specific and indicates that we are not making any decisions, that we are considering all sorts of, so input is welcome, but we're not making decisions on anything other than that specific appointment tonight.
People want to speak to help
So
influence your decision one way or the other.
I would suggest that if folks have comments that are about the broader discussion of police and stuff, that would be a non-agenda item, whereas what we have on the agenda tonight is specifically about an interim agreement, not the long term. So I would say that folks who want to speak to the broader issue could make their comments now, unless it's related directly
I'm fine
to
with that.
the interim
Does the
agreement.
rest of the board feel comfortable with that?
That cuts down on the back and forth, though. I mean, there is some benefit to having some back and forth.
Right, yeah, during the discussion, there's usually allowing
Right.
time. And I would think it's such a related item that I would think discussion is better. And it won't be long until we get to that section.
Right, it is going to, the rest of our agenda is pretty straightforward. We're going to be to that pretty quickly. And so in that case, it does afford us the back and forth. I think that's a good point. So if you are willing to indulge us the time to get through, and these are all pretty straightforward items, so I think that the board would prefer to handle it that way, if you're willing. Okay, sure.
My name is Bobby Oxton Blake, and I'm a resident of Camden, born Camden Community Hospital, been here all my life. I know that the Camden Police Department issue is on the agenda, so I'm reserving my comments for that until it comes up. But I want to voice my concerns about larger issues that it fits into. We are a small mid-coast town. We have a character to our town that is central to the pride that we all have for it. We all want to preserve the character, and inevitably, even as inevitable change happens, we all know that change is going to happen. I've seen a ton of it in my 55 years. It seems to me that we're looking in and watching the select board being managed by the town manager instead of vice versa. That's how it feels when I'm watching this happen. I'm voicing this for the benefit of the select board because the town manager works for you. Indeed, the select board chair is the direct supervisor of the town manager. Among the changes I have seen that cause me concern are the elimination of the annual town meetings to approve budget that have always been an opportunity for residents to directly engage with the select board and town officials in issues of concern. The move to remove the Montgomery Dam, I won't belabor this point, but this was mishandled in many ways, in my opinion. Speaking of the conflict with our neighbors for wastewater treatment controversy was handled poorly. It falls on the town manager. We need to work well with our neighbors, and allowing conflict to grow is not helpful. The paid parking issue was insulting to me. even if the town manager technically has the right to make that decision unilaterally, it does not mean that she or she should. That changes the character of our town. It impacts businesses, residents, and tourists alike. We already have the reputation as being a town that's unfriendly to people trying to start a business. This should have been open to the public for debate and approval. We voted to take over and maintain the Elm Street School last year, and now we don't want to do the maintenance to this gorgeous historic building that the town voted to accept as a gift. I don't understand that. The last point, and I only mention this to make a larger point, is that any decision about the future of the Camden Police Department is something that must be made by the people of Camden. I raise this to the select board because you do not appear to be doing your job by overseeing and directing the town manager. It is time you reflect on that and that you work for the people that elected you and not for the town manager.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on a non-agenda item? Do you have a non-agenda item? Late arriver? Okay. All right, we will then go on to approval of minutes from the last two meetings, January 20th and February 3rd. Does anyone have any comments or questions, deletions, corrections?
On the February 3rd, under select board reports, I would just modify that under mine to be the upcoming planning board hearings.
As opposed to where
It
are
just
we?
says upcoming hearings. It doesn't
Okay.
specify what they
Okay.
are. If anyone was somewhere was.
Oh, under select
if
board
some
reports.
desperate
Okay.
person was looking for particular information.
Okay. Anything else? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, any further? All those in favor? Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Approve? Excellent, thank you, Allison.
McKellar, approve.
Keller approves. So we have public hearing of two liquor licenses, and because they're establishments with under 5 years, they require a public hearing, and the way that the procedure is that the board will hear from the applicant if appropriate, or if they feel they want to say something, and then we'll seek comments from anyone wishing to speak for or against the applicant. And then any questions or comments from the board, and then we will vote on the proposed licensing changes. So we have the transfer of Paper Plane liquor license location from 2 Wayfarer Drive to 47 Bayview Street. And we have the temporary extension of premises for a special event at 8 Bells at 45 Mechanic Street on St. Patrick's Day from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the documents for those are in the packet and all appear to be in order, including a very nicely done schematic for Paper Plane, Chriso.
With some of the Italian
Somebody's-
labeling, I
Yes,
thought.
very nicely done in Italian. Great. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of either of these?
I mean, I can speak to that.
Great. Come on up.
All right. Tom Ryan, owner of 8 Bells Pub. I am a Camden resident. And yeah, we're planning a St. Patrick's Day, hopefully annual St. Patrick's Day event at 8 Bells. It's going to be a fun time from noon to 9. We are going to extend into the parking lot because I expect quite a few people to make their way to the party. So what it consists of is 4 bands, and culminating with a band from Ireland coming over. They have they're doing a North American tour, and one of the stops is Camden. So it's pretty exciting. So that's what we got going on.
Great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Questions, concerns? Thank you, Tom.
Sure, what's the weather going to be on?
Yeah,
That's always a crapshoot. So we're prepared. The parking lot will be completely tented and heated.
Did you have all of that space covered during the toboggan?
I did not.
Oh.
No. We
You were
just
just out in the back.
moved out to the front lawn,
Okay,
but this will be just the parking lot.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, fun times.
Excellent.
I think it is. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So anyone else wish to speak on either of these applications? Seeing none, any comments from the board?
No, they look pretty straightforward.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second?
All those any further comments? All those in favor? McKellar, yes.
McKellar, yes.
Okay, excellent. Consent agenda, I'll just read through these, which are also all appear to be in order in the packet. Approval of the victuals license for Franny's Bistro. Approval of a request from Camden Rotary to close Atlantic Avenue for Music by the Sea on July 4th. And confirmation of William H. Pascal Fund trustees to recommend Nicole Bland as a new trustee filling the unexpired term of David Dickey.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak in support of Nikki Bland. I think she would be a great addition to the Pascal Fund, and also to take the opportunity to recognize the good work of David Dickey. Over the many years, this is one of the quiet ways that David Dickey supported the people of the town of Camden. And also may as well recognize the other members, Chip Late and Elaine Davis of the Pascal Fund.
Thank you. No further comment. We'll approve the consent agenda. Moving on to select board member reports. Has anyone got anything to report tonight?
The Cemetery Association met this afternoon, but they are deep into working on the budget, and that was their agenda today.
Okay. Chris, you got anything for us?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Chriso?
Banner week for vacation week out at the Snow Bowl. They
Indeed.
have just been booming with people parking out on the field and all facilities running. They were running the toboggan chute over the weekend. The tubing hill is going, and planning board has on the 19th, I think, a hearing that includes two development projects. One is an expansion of a proposed expansion, phase 2 expansion of Nordhaven. The other is a housing development being proposed on the property on Camden Street across from Hannaford, which will be an interesting, on that little triangle between Camden Street and Route 1.
Yeah. That's Camden.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Little piece of it is right.
yeah. Allison, anything you'd like to bring to us?
Yeah, just real quick. I had the chance to visit actually the landfill where our municipal solid waste currently goes. That's Norwich Walk. And the company is called Waste Management. And they have one of the first operating PFAS removal systems from their leachate. For anybody that's been following the PFAS kind of crisis in Maine, what we found is that a lot of PFAS is ending up in leachate in municipal wastewater treatment systems, and that has meant that the sludge that is produced by the wastewater plant can't be spread on for agricultural purposes. And so that's really increased our costs at the treatment plant. And then also what we know is that a lot of those PFAS high levels come from landfill leachate. And that same thing is true for our construction debris landfill. So it's really interesting to see that Waste Management has actually implemented a PFAS removal system ahead of the regulations before they're actually being forced to do it. But now the leachate that comes from their landfill has the PFAS at a non-detect level after it leaves this treatment system. So that was really interesting because it is inevitably going to be something that we're going to have to deal with both in Camden and at Midcoast Solid Waste. So that was super interesting. And then along the same Midcoast Solid Waste lines, the other thing to bring up is maybe some of you remember that we voted, I think it was last year, to join on with Camden, and we did the same thing with Midco Solid Waste to join on to this joint class action with a number of other municipalities that have been affected by PFAS. And so SL Environmental took on our case, both Midco Solid Waste and Camden. And it's basically a lawsuit against DuPont and the other manufacturers of PFAS. And so that was announced. There's a little press release about it mentioning both Camden and Midco Solid Waste. And the hope there is to recover some of the costs that are going to come with all of these treatment options. And so just a quick plug also for anybody, if you have a private hauler or you're looking for a private hauler to pick up your trash in Camden or Rockport or Lincolnville or Hope, actually, just a plug to think about if you can find a local hauler that brings the trash to our transfer station. That really helps the transfer station. It helps local businesses too. And they're like somebody like Wayne Heel, for instance, that's familiar with our recycling system and that brings waste to the transfer station rather than an outside company coming in and charging people and then taking that further away. If you have a chance to hire a local person, that is really helpful to everybody. And that's it for me.
Great, thanks, Allison. And I'm all set, so we will move on to town manager's report.
Well, I don't really have anything because we're deep into developing the budget right now. But I just wanted to say that we have a lot of people that we need to honor and thank for a number of things that have happened recently. So we've had a few key retirements by folks who served for a very long time that we'd like to honor, as well as a pretty remarkable story about Toboggan Nationals that we'd like to thank some people for. So that's been organized for the next meeting. So I just want to make everybody aware that nobody's been forgotten, and we definitely want to honor the great work people are doing.
So that'll be March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd. Okay. All right, on to the action item. An act to appoint an interim police chief pursuant to Article 2, 206 of the town charter.
All right, so I'm happy to introduce this one. So most people are aware that after close to 4 decades of service, our police chief, Randy Gagne, is retiring on Thursday. And his leadership really it spanned a significant period of time, and it marks quite the point of change for Camden as well as the region, because Randy not only served as Camden's police chief, but Rockport's as well. So it's a natural transition point for the town, and also it provides us an opportunity to step back before we appoint somebody permanently to this position and look at being deliberate about evaluating sort of the leadership structure of the police department, community needs, what service delivery should look like, and long-term options for law enforcement within Camden. So, while we're going through this sort of period where we're able to look a little bit more deeply at the department, instead of sort of appointing somebody internally, which inevitably sort of creates an expectation about permanency, we thought that it would be wise to bring in our partners at the county and see if they could help us out with a temporary leadership and management solution so we can do this broader evaluation. So what we have before you tonight is an agreement where we would be engaging Knox County Sheriff and the command team around him to provide that leadership support to us on an interim basis. So all 3 individuals, I believe, are here tonight, and they can come up and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their background. Fortunately, all of them are Camden alums, so many of them started their career with the town of Camden, so they're familiar with the area. So, they've got this familiarity with the community that I think it's going to create an easier transition and help in sort of looking at the department and trying to figure out, what the next steps are going to be. So really, that's kind of the crux of it. This is not permanent. It doesn't mean any long-term decisions have been made, but it gives us a really good opportunity to sort of assess what our needs are in the direction that we would like to go in. And how do we work more closely with the county into the future?
So I know there are a lot of people here who would like to address this. I think the first thing would be appropriate to have those officers come up and introduce themselves to the folks at large. I know you're known to us, but in this current context, I think that would be a good place to start.
Do you want to come up?
Kurt?
Good evening. So I'm Patrick Polking, current sheriff of Knox County. So I'm here at your request to try to help you folks out. So the town in particular does not get a lot of service from the county, if you will, because you have a lot of your own internal services. So town manager reached out when she heard that Randy was retiring. Reached out to myself and the commissioners. Commissioner Ratner is here this evening because at the county level, we can't do anything alone necessarily. The sheriff needs the commission as well in order to do any kind of forward movement. They are the fiduciary side of things, whereas the sheriff is operational. So we're here just to provide whatever support we can. This is to do a temporary service from what we understand at this point. You pay a pretty hefty county tax already. The commissioners and I felt that it was only appropriate to make sure that there was no cost as long as there was not a heavy lift. We don't feel this will be because you will still have your own department, just kind of an oversight, if you will, and not even oversight, more just signature authority while you folks figure out you want to go for a internal search, an external search, those types of things. But regardless of your decision, we're here to collaborate one way or the other, whether it's for this or any other services with the county. So I've been in this job for 25 years. I started here in Camden in 2000. Left in 2013 to pursue college. Did that for a year. Life happened and had to get back into the workforce. Started at the sheriff's office in an island contract position on North Haven, and I've been there since, worked my way up through the ranks. Eventually was appointed to the position of sheriff and then elected to sheriff 4 years ago. So,
Can you tell us more specifically on a day-to-day basis what this will look like in town in terms of leadership?
yeah, so I don't necessarily see a lot of big difference for you folks. The only thing that's changed is you just don't have a police chief. You have a command team already, if you will. You have a lieutenant and a couple sergeants. They can manage most of the work that needs to be done. It's just a matter of consulting with us, with my command team, which we've already been doing in some capacity. If you remember, several months ago, we entered into an agreement to help provide some coverage during your shorter lack of manpower hours. That's still in place. We're still providing that. This just gives your command team that direct access to us. In a way, it eliminates kind of the bureaucracy of having to ask for that assistance, whereas we can just provide it immediately without having to being asked. So,
And that would be on a rotating basis, or because Kurt and yourself and
Arthur Smith.
Arthur
Yeah.
would-
So that's my command team that manages the patrol side, what we call the patrol side in the sheriff's office. So it's access to all of us. Ultimately, it comes down to just like when I'm working with them, with our regular staff, they're kind of that chain of command. Any decisions that have to be made by me will be, but if I don't need to make them, I usually delegate a lot of things down. I let the lowest level handle it when it can. And I think that can just be duplicated here. So.
Any other questions from the board for Sheriff Polkey? Allison? Okay, thank you. Should we take comments or get into the agreement? What do you think?
I think let's have the comments. Let's
Yeah.
let folks chime in.
So we will welcome comments from the floor. John French, you have waited patiently. Please.
Good evening. I'm John Frank. I want to start off with, I know all these men. I've known them from for a long time. They're good officers, but I disagree with you, Audra, on this one, big time. We have a good crew that works for us, very dedicated staff, well-trained staff. We got a lieutenant who's second in charge, was not even considered for this position. You could have put him in as interim chief, told him that he's invited to apply for the job, just like anybody else, put together a citizens committee to help search for a new police chief or whichever direction the town wants to go into. But it's basically a slap in the face to the people that work for us. They've done a good job for us. They've taken care of us. And they've been there when the time gets tough. So I think we should reconsider, and I don't mean anything ill to the sheriff's department. They're good people. They do a good job and they're very, very professional. But we have those folks already here and they've been with us for years. I mean, Mike's been with us for 30 years, 36 years, and he's been lieutenant for a number of years. He deserves to be at least given the opportunity. So that's where I'm at. I mean, and we do need to do something as far as a community base. Make sure the town has a say in what's done, because we talked about this years ago. We did have a group, we talked about it. And at that time, which I know was a long time ago, they wanted to stay with our own patrol and our own people. And the other thing too, we've already done the investigations, or whatever you want to say, survey on the department, on the different jobs they do. I can't remember when the last one, about 10 years ago, I believe was the last time it was done. But we've done it several times to keep up, make sure that we're meeting the standards of the day. So I'm hoping that we'll slow down a little bit, use the people we have, and get this show on the road. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Can I just make
Please, Chris.
just a quick comment to remind folks to keep comments polite and appropriate and not make it personal. And also a reminder that no decisions have been made about the long-term future of the department. This is an interim stage that is proposed so that we can have a conversation about what is next and who will fill those roles.
Exactly.
No decisions have been made.
Yeah, can I also just say something?
Yes, Allison, please.
Real quick. Yeah, I just basically want to reiterate what Chriso just said, that what I've heard over and over again is that people want us to be working with our neighbors as much as possible and wherever that makes sense. And for some reason, the county often gets left out of that equation, but the county is literally the entity set up for towns to work together. And so because Randy is retiring, this is an opportunity where we can just spend a little bit of time better understanding the resources that are already available to us, better understanding where there might be overlap, whether it be sharing vehicles or anything like that. But to be able to go along just exactly as we are right now, with nobody losing their job at all. Everything is just staying exactly the same, but we aren't committing to any one thing. So this is just as an exploratory period. And I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I'm sure there are others who wish to speak. Stuart.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk about this. To say the least, I was shocked when I heard we were not going to have our own police chief in Camden. The Camden Police Department has always been an integral part of our town, of our community, and the people that live in Camden and function here, whether we have businesses or we just have kids in the high school or the kids in any of the schools, or we're going to the parades, we've had our own police department and we've had our own police chief. It's an excellent opportunity to have one of these other gentlemen that have been working for us for such a long time to be promoted to this. And so I'm not sure I quite understand why all of a sudden we need to have an experiment to see if the sheriff's department could run our police department. that somehow does not make any sense at all. And I don't think it was ever discussed at all before Randy decided to retire. So I don't see this as a temporary thing. I see this as a back door jumping in and saying, okay, we're not going to have a police chief anymore. We're going to rely on the sheriff's department to run our police department. And I don't think that's a very good idea. And I think there has to be a lot broader input from a bigger group of people than Audra leading it, saying, okay, let's just have the sheriff's department come over here. Because either she doesn't like the guys that are there and doesn't want to put one of them in the management position. But this is
totally, to suggest that this
I
is
think
Audra,
again, I
it's
think
just
again,
completely
to Chriso's
unacceptable.
point, I agree to Chriso's point that.
Well, I
that
guess I just
we-
have to
we
tell you what
have
people
dis-
are talking about.
We have
And you
discussed
need
this
to
as a
know.
board.
Well,
We
the board may
dis-
have discussed it, but the general public
we-
is not.
This is
discussed.
the opportunity that we're presenting. It's the beginning of the conversation.
It sounds like the decision's already been made by you guys. doesn't it?
I would beg to differ,
Well, then why do we have the sheriff's department here tonight?
because we have a police chief who is retiring and the need to have the coverage and continuity while all the personnel questions and the structural questions are being sorted.
And I guess I don't understand why you wouldn't just appoint one of your officers
Because there's
as a temporary
uh,
chief.
so-
You've got great people. Why are you jumping
We
around?
agree.
and
We do
doing it?
we do not dispute that. We do not dispute that.
You may not dispute that, but your actions certainly do dispute that. Otherwise, the sheriff's department wouldn't be here tonight. And I'm sorry, Chris.
This is not the first time the sheriff's department has been here.
This
Very
is the
recently,
first
we
time
had
the
another
sheriff's has
conversation
been
with the
here to
sheriff.
be here, to be
He's
interviewed, to run the police department. So don't tell me that, Allison. This is a backdoor
We
operation.
already have,
Okay.
no, we already have the sheriff's department operating in Camden because we have had such a difficult time retaining people. And very often, many of our very good people have wanted to progress in their career and have gone to the sheriff's department. I think you'll find that a lot of them look familiar here
So-
tonight. So we've
so-
already been having this conversation.
You have
It's-
not had
it's not
this
the first time that they're
conversation
here.
with the general public.
This is not,
It's
No,
true,
you were
Chris.
here. No, there was a select board
Yeah,
meeting where this was discussed.
Excuse me though, Chriso, you're not on mic. And Allison, you are interrupting someone who's trying to speak. It would be best to let him finish. It does appear less argumentative that way.
well, we have the
Sure,
right
but
to.
there's a
we-
point where we're not going to listen to Audra being attacked and being told that she is leading this entire thing. Because what's been hammered to us is looking for opportunities to work with our neighbors, bringing down taxes where we can, identifying opportunities and bringing them to the community. And this is not Audra's idea. This makes Audra's job harder, but she feels an obligation to help facilitate a real conversation about what our options are. And that's what she's been asked to do.
Well, I'll ask then, Allison, if this is not Audra's idea, whose idea on the board was
Can we
it?
not get
Excuse
into-
me,
I don't think that's an appropriate.
Well, wait a
pursuit.
second, please. It's often that I get
Chris,
interrupted.
Chris,
Wait.
I've been trying to respond to something for several minutes, and I was going to suggest that we have a little bit of a process clarification. We have allowed public comment. I felt, and Allison felt, that Stuart's comments were getting a little bit personal, and the attitude was not helpful to the discussion. I think it would be good right now if we continue to have public comment. We can listen to the public comment, and then we can respond. This back and forth kind of thing is not going to be a helpful conversation for anyone. Does that?
Yeah,
seem-
I agree. I'm certainly one who doesn't like being interrupted as well.
So I apologize if you thought I was being rude about my comments. I did not mean to be that. My comment is this all of a sudden happened this week, that instead of interviewing people that work for us and have been working for us and should be given the opportunity to apply for that job of police chief, all of a sudden was completely shut out. And I'm
So-
sorry, it may not seem like that to you, but that's how it seems to the general
So-
public here.
Just from where some of us are sitting, the resignation of the chief was fairly unexpected. It was a short-term time that we had to make some plans. there was not in place a transition succession plan that had not been developed. So taking the time to look at a third party as an interim while we have the conversations is the intent. To say, right now, things are working, but this is for, and it's only till June. This agreement is till June, at which point we will have this is the start of the conversation, is to say, that's where we are. No decisions have been made, no predetermined ordinance. It's just, this is a short-term plan and then we can figure out how best to go forward. Yes, county may be one of those options.
I have to be honest, Chriso, that is not how it appears to the general public.
I would ask anyone who is concerned about the scope to read through the agreement that's in the packet, because it's quite limited in scope and does not commit us to anything beyond June, nor does it state that we are engaging on a longer term basis with the county. It says the purpose of this agreement is to allow Patrick Polkey, Sheriff of the county, to provide part-time assistance to the town in the oversight and operation on a temporary basis. That is the purpose. It's a very short term. The scope, the county through its elected sheriff will provide part-time services of the sort normally provided by the police chief of the town's police department, which will be accomplished through the appointment of Patrick Polkey, Sheriff of the county, as interim Camden Police Chief, pursuant and subject to the charter of the town of Camden. The language is very clear. It's very limited in scope. It is short-term, and it does not commit us beyond June. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Stone. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Schools here in Camden up the street. I'm also a town resident, a parent of some kids, and thank you for all your work. I know it's not easy. I'm going to speak a little less about the right now that these two gentlemen have talked about and kind of your long-term planning. Part of my role as Assistant Superintendent is to run all the school-based emergency planning and drills for our district, pre-K to 12, all three campuses. And Rose Hall includes the adult education program, and it also includes Zenith High School, which is part of our high school and alternative ed school. For the last 11 years, I was also the middle school principal. And so I'm speaking with both my hats on, a taxpayer and assistant superintendent hat. I am concerned about the potential of an elimination of a police chief as a role for Camden. I understand you haven't made a decision yet, but it's something you're talking about. So these are really future considerations I'd like you to hear. I think in my tenure, I just want to say, and Kurt could attest because he was my guy for a long time, we've had some absolutely remarkable events in our schools most people don't know about because we handled it. And that's what we do. When we call the PD, they've always shown up quick and they're always ready to support us. And there are two things I'd like you to consider if you determine to analyze reorganization that I rely on heavily when I make these calls. One is response times and two is relationships. And based on the events in the greater world, we all know response times and relationships matter tremendously. I understand that you're not necessarily looking at removing the department or you're looking at oversight being outside of the department. But I know our towns understand that with the addition of EMTs and firefighters, which I also totally supported. So to me, this would be moving away from a direction I feel like we've committed to as a town. I am concerned about the reality of supervision moving to Knox County. While I know these guys are great and they help us all the time at the high school and they've responded to things on my campus previously, leadership on site is important every day. And obviously, I know Kurt the best sitting over here and know he knows most of the players. But, Randy, Kurt, when it was him, Aaron Bailey, they're on my phone. So when I call, I know who's coming. They're real people. We partner. We have long-standing relationships. They have had some with children that then become high school kids and then community members. So my question is, if we move that to a broader scale, will we lose that for our children? Will we lose the relationships? And will we have any damage to our response time? Our officers come to lunch at our schools. They've been up there just last week. I was talking with them. They visit us for events. They know many of our kids by name. So as you think about what to do forward, I would implore you to think about tax savings in other places. I think people are really important. They make everything work well. And I really want to make sure that we are focused on response times, relationships, and supporting our children. I'm curious what we learned from sharing the police chief with Rockport and if that worked well. I don't know if that's off the table. If it is, then I would say, I would hope we would look at continuing to have our own chief. Police and fire and EMT response doesn't feel like the place we need to save our tax dollars. Our students and adult residents deserve the protections that come with full-time chief and the leadership of that and their attention to our town and our safety. Thanks for all your work and your consideration. I appreciate what you
Thank you for
do.
your comments. Much appreciated. Yes, please.
Hi there. I'm going to echo a lot of what Jamie said. My name is Jed Schwam, Executive Director of Atlantic Academy here in Camden. Atlantic Academy serves some of the area's most at-risk youth, students with significant behavioral and emotional challenges. The Camden Police Department has been integral to supporting us in terms of relationships, continuity of services, response time. So I don't need to say a lot other than that, but they've been integral to the safety of our population, integral to the relationships of our staff, our students, and our families too. So just considering the continuity moving forward, the implications of any structural changes, I would ask for that to be under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Sergeant Weaver.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Great, good evening.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sergeant Alan Weaver. I'm currently in my 23rd year of service with the Camden Police Department. Like many others, I was surprised when Chief Gagne announced his retirement. His service to this community has been substantial, and his departure naturally created questions about the path forward. Leadership transitions are significant moments for any organization, and I recognize they require careful thought and planning. In the weeks following that announcement, many members of this department were eager to understand the town's plan for continuity of leadership. As the professionals who serve this community every day, we bring not only operational knowledge, but also a long-term commitment to the success of this organization and the safety of its residents. That perspective is valuable and important to include whenever possible. Unfortunately, during that initial period, members of this department were not asked to provide their perspective, and I believe that was a missed opportunity there for valuable input. Excuse me. We were later informed that the Knox County Sheriff and his command staff would be serving in an interim leadership capacity. I respect their experience and willingness to assist during this transition. As you know, we've worked with all of them. At the same time, I want to clearly recognize the depth of experience and dedication that exists within this department. There are members here who have committed their entire careers to serving Camden, and that continuity matters. I understand that there have been discussions regarding succession planning. While there may not have been a formally designated successor, I am confident there are highly capable and qualified leaders within this department. Many of our members have invested extensively in leadership training, development, and professional growth. This is a strong and experienced organization that is well positioned to meet challenges ahead. I say this respectfully and professionally. This is an opportunity to continue strengthening communication and cooperation between the Select Board and this police department. Strong public safety outcomes depend on strong working relationships. I am confident that through open communication, transparency, and mutual respect, we can continue building that partnership. What I can say without hesitation is this: the members of this department will continue to show up every day, committed to serving this community with professionalism, integrity, and dedication. That commitment has not changed, and it will not change. Moving forward, the goal of this department is to work collaboratively with the town leadership to develop and execute a clear, strong plan that serves the best interests of this community and its taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Weaver.
Okay, so again, I understand no decisions have been made, but it did come across, I'm agreeing with these guys, that it felt thrown at us. And I didn't hear about it I didn't see it as much on the select board meeting as I assumed it was in the executive meeting that you all had. So we didn't really have a chance to say anything about this. But for those of us that grew up here, we take great comfort in knowing that we have a dedicated police force. From Chief Smith when I was a little girl to Gene Ryan, right up through. I mean, I've known these police officers my whole life. Michael Gary started when I was in my early 20s, probably, I mean, he knows. And I'm just concerned that the town is considering disbanding the Camden Police Department in favor of contracted coverage with the Sheriff's Department. This is a major decision for our town, and as someone who knows the officers who represent our town, it would be ideal to ensure that town management is looking in the right direction to preserve the peace of mind and safety for all of our community members, especially our elderly members. They do a ton of check-ins on our elderly folks and make sure that they're okay and that their well-being is okay. Last year, Camden PD covered over 7,000 calls. Camden Fire Department responded to less than 500. They cover all of our festivals. They cover all of the events at the high school. They cover all the parades. They do so much in our community. And we don't want another situation like Camden Town Management made unilateral decision about the paid parking. We want to make sure that we have public input and that we don't just make a decision as a small group of people as to what's going to happen. The decision is about such a critical issue is something to be opened up to public comment and approval. This is not a minor decision. This is something that will affect the character of our community long term. And I'm going to sort of put it to, we allowed our ambulance association, and I know there was all kinds of money problems and there were all kinds of problems with it, but we allowed that to be dismantled. We allowed those ambulances, the Jaws of Life, all of those things to go away in favor of a contracted ambulance. And now what are we doing? We're trying to bring it back. So I just hope that you really look at this as not what's happening tomorrow, but what's happening 10 or 15 years from now. And don't make a snap decision because if you look at the ambulance and you look at those things, we're in the process of bringing that back. And we had all of that. It was right on John Street. We had a beautiful brand new building. We could have taken that over as the town. We didn't. And we contracted. And I've always thought that that was a mistake. So just really think about those things and look at that. Thank you.
I'd like to correct the record about one thing, because this has been said by Bobby at least 4 times in public. I did not make any unilateral decisions about parking.
Correct.
That was not a unilateral decision. Nope, I never did. Nope, it was voted on by the select board. So that is just incorrect, and I'd like that. It's going to be entered in meeting minutes, and it's a decision by the select board, not me unilaterally.
There was an advisory committee and it was a vote taken
And
by
it
the
was,
board.
and it was talked about for 8 years.
Yeah. Thank you. So let the record show. Absolutely.
The budget committee.
And the budget committee made a decision on it too.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to speak? Take as much time as you need.
My name is Gary Bourne. I am a Camden resident and business owner. I will say that when we were looking in 2017 to purchase a B&B, we looked in 3 towns, and one of the criteria that came to the top and why we picked Camden was the character, the town feel, and the really low crime rate. I will tell you, within the first 2 weeks after we purchased our property, Chief Gagnon stopped by to introduce himself, and I thought that was absolutely unbelievable. we moved from a big city, that would not have happened. I believe the character of a town is important for business investments. And I believe the town should be town supervised and contained. I would also be careful what it says to the police department when you start to not have the option to promote from within and move up and advance your skills and your leadership abilities. I think the police department does an excellent job. And sometimes, as the saying goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Another bite at the apple, Stuart?
I'm Stuart Smith again. I guess I would.
Changed.
I guess I would ask the question, why, when a department has had someone say they're retiring, it seems to me like if someone of the public works retired, we would put an ad out to hire somebody else to hire as a department chair. Why haven't we considered, we haven't even put an ad out for a new police chief? Instead of putting an ad in the paper and getting it out across the state and also leaving these officers an opportunity to apply for the job, we all of a sudden jumped to the county sheriff's department. So if Audra decided that she was going to resign or retire or take another job, we would put an ad out right away for a town manager.
Well, and the process that we are embarking on does not preclude that.
Well, I guess I don't,
Not a
my question is,
full-blown
why didn't we put an ad out immediately?
You're just
for?
looking at a very short window.
But that,
And then
that's,
Stuart,
but you
please,
wouldn't do that on any other thing else. So you're,
I think that,
people can see right through this.
I don't think,
should
I don't
have an
know what
ad
they're,
out
I don't
right
know what they're
now.
seeing when they
You
see
should have an
right
ad
through
out right now for a new
Don't know what
police
they're
chief.
seeing when they see right through it, because the suggestion that we are doing something that we are not striving to act in the best interest of the community, I think we all take some exception to that, because we've discussed this and looked at it from a lot of angles. And again, I will reiterate what this interim step entails. It does not preclude looking for, that's the answer. That's the answer. I'm not going to argue with you about the
I don't buy
process.
that answer, okay? And I don't think the
But-
general public buys it. If you have an empty space and you have a leader that's retiring,
Have a leader who
you put
retires.
out an ad and you say,
This
This
is not
back and forth
productive.
is not going to be helpful. I think we're going to have some discussion. Hopefully that will give
I
some
guess I would
answers.
just ask you all to consider the public saying, we would like to have our own police chief at our own police.
We are hearing you. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak?
I'll be nice.
Please.
Audra, I'll apologize to you for everybody. I didn't mean to single you out, but I did. I apologize. But I just want to say one thing. Gene Ryan left. Terry Burgess left. And Phil Roberts, lieutenant, filled in as the interim chief until the decision was made. We went out to you were here too for that, Susan. And we went out to the papers at the time and MMA and whatever. And we had folks be part of the group that made a decision. We ended up staying within. When Chief Roberts left, Lieutenant Gagney became the chief. And we went through the same process. We learned that we had already had somebody within. So it has been something we've done before. That's all I want to say about it. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I don't mean to be a horse's ass about it, but anyway, have a good evening.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else gathered here who would like to speak? If not, I'm going to turn it to the board for discussion. Okay, seeing no takers, please, Chris.
I've done a lot of consideration on this particular one. I have discussed this issue with the former chief deputy, state trooper, guardian of the president, as well as a university professor, a police chief who won the community policing award in his area. To summarize what they've said, some of their words were absolutely not, no way,
To what?
to this direction of going. This is the wrong direction. This is my point too. This is the wrong direction to go in for the county to go ahead and be an interim person. Not only is that what the folks who I've spoken with are saying, and they're highly respected, and they did community policing work in this area years ago as well. This to me signals incorrectly to the law enforcement officers that we currently have as far as how we value them. As someone said earlier in the meeting, honor the great work that the people are doing. I think this would be continuing to honor the great work that the people are doing by hiring from within the department on an interim basis. Keep it more situation normal, not expect somebody on only a part-time basis to go ahead and support us. I'd rather see somebody on a full-time basis as a chief in interim basis. And much like you're saying that there is no expectation or provision that an interim chief promoted from within for a period of time can't also have a time limit. We can still also go ahead and ask other people to apply. It's a great time for them to, sharpen the resumes for those who are interested. I really think losing a degree of control of our town police department not only loses some town identity, but you're also then putting a branch of government that is currently kind of in budget trouble as it is, to be in a leadership position in our town. And it's a county that doesn't even have a quorum on its own budget committee. I think this is going in the wrong direction, shows the wrong intent when we've got people who are doing the job and are here. Other concerns, again, sending the wrong message about where this is going. And I'll stick with what my father, my son, the police chiefs have told me and say, this is not a good idea. Promote from within. Honor the people who are here. Knox County Sheriff will back us up if we need it anyhow. But you lose a lot without that community face, without that desk that you can go to, like I did once with Randy, with a complaint that I had. And I could see him in his office down here in town because he was there. I didn't have to go somewhere else. I didn't have to try to find, a part-time person. No, like I went and talked to who I know as Randy. And granted, I know people like Arthur Smith. Arthur and I were, wrestling partners together when I was coaching in high school. It's not that I don't. In fact, my father said, yeah, Sheriff Polkey, yeah, he's a nice guy. Wrong thing to do for the town.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Yes. Thanks. On the face of it, we're deciding tonight on an interim police chief. Listening to the discussion and the people who have called me lately, there seems to be a larger issue either on the horizon or under consideration. But just talking about the interim chief, the proposal talks about a deliberate approach to evaluating leadership, and that is repeated several times in the proposal, that we need to take the space to assess where we're going. And so the interim chief would be clearly an interim chief only until June. But if that's the case, we seem to be free to choose an interim chief from our current police department or reach out to the sheriff's department. And I am very much leaning towards supporting our local police department in this manner. I think we have people who are capable of seeing us to being the interim chief and fulfilling the duties of the police department and helping us do the assessment about what will be happening in the future. And I do appreciate hearing from many people and for you all coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts. It's not a minor decision, but I wanted to make clear where I'm at.
Appreciate that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ken. Allison, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, I am, as we talk about supporting our officers, I feel the same way. I have had experiences with many of these officers. Many of them are no longer with us. Some have moved to the county and some are still working for the Camden Police Department. I think that it would be very much a step backwards to take Randy's resignation. We've been sharing a police chief with Rockport. We have been benefiting from that collaboration. We have significant presence from the county sheriff department. I've heard very good feedback from residents. The sheriff department gets involved in Camden quite often. And what I've heard from people is they're not concerned with what is written on the side of a police car, as long as somebody who is professional and caring shows up. What we're talking about here is the same police cars, the same everything. Over the past couple weeks, I've heard at least 3 different very good pitches for who in our current department might be able to be chief. All 3 of these people who I have heard about and heard from, they all have incredibly important qualities. They are different qualities and different experiences. To me, it would be an incredible slap in the face to certainly 2 out of the 3 of them to just hastily go and say, okay, it's you. Because that decision for me would be much too difficult. To me, what working with the county does right now is it allows us to strengthen our connections with some of these, first of all, the same officers that have had this strong connection to Camden for a long time. And I feel sort of terrible thinking about what it must feel like to be a sheriff's deputy right now and listening to this as if, having the sheriff's deputies here is like, some kind of less than human or totally different entity. These are the people that have been living with us, working with us, and helping solve all the same problems. So to me, this is allowing us to not make a decision that is going to be a slap in the face to anybody. It allows for that thoughtful process of determining what do the people of Camden want from their police department in the future? What should the job of police chief look like in the future? What was working well with Rockport? What wasn't? What other partnerships can be expanded? We live in a town where we cross town lines all the time. And Rockport, for instance, I was reading, they didn't put out an ad for a new police chief. They chose to appoint somebody without much discussion. And that's because they have an understanding of what they felt like they needed, and that was going to work for them. It is not a one size one-fits-all approach. And I think that just choosing one of these very qualified people that we have right now without a larger discussion is a disservice. And we do need some help and management in the short term as we are deciding what the future is going to look like. The budget committee discussions are starting now. This is the exact right time of the year for there to be a robust discussion about the level of service that's expected and desired and what can be better. And, that's exactly what we're doing. So I support moving forward with the agreement.
Thank you, Allison. As always, your comments are really valuable. I appreciate it. Chriso.
Excuse me, are her comments more valuable than ours? Why do you not say the same thing for us?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm serious.
Well,
I'm serious. I get interrupted. I get hurried. I speak usually more succinctly. Yeah.
Noted.
And then when I do get interrupted, usually comment, please talk, after losing my train of thought by being interrupted. So are her comments better than Ken and I's comments
all.
because they align
Not
with
at
your way
all.
of thinking?
no, not at all. And I take great value from what both of you said. And I didn't interrupt. And
I
I took
appreciate
notes. And I'm taking what you said into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chriso.
Well, it's clearly a topic that people are slightly passionate about, which is not surprising. It's one of the most important things that our town provides. And I think that first, I just want to, reiterate that there's no one on the board who doesn't appreciate the dedication and loyalty of all the folks who serve all of our services. But given that this opportunity, this moment presented itself, and if, one of the conversations that we hear time and time again from all kinds of folks in town is, why aren't we sharing more services? Why aren't we doing things more with our neighbors? Why can't we find ways to economize, to save? And, I think historically the arrangement with Rockport to share a police chief seemed like that was going to lead to maybe sharing a police department, but it feels that Rockport doesn't want to go down that path. So we're a different town than Rockport. We're a different town than Rockland. We're a different town than Lincolnville. Our needs are different, but if we don't take this moment to just sort of pause and look at where we can, what the best solution for the town is, I think we would be mistaken, and I think we would be negligent. And to me, taking that moment of just saying, we have a partner who's been working with our department, who knows our department, in Sheriff Pokey, who can take over interim. We can have the conversations with the public about ensuring, nowhere in any of these, I also want to make sure that everyone understands that nowhere in any of these conversations are we talking about reducing level of service, reducing number of officers, or reducing community presence. These would still be the same ideas of what it would look like. But if there are ways that we can share more with our county neighbors, I think that or other communities, that we have to explore that and not just go in. And as Allison says, if we go forward with hiring someone from within, that's a delicate political process that we have to not just rush through because of our current chief's retirement. So I think taking the time to have conversations with the community. I understand that everyone here in the room is very strongly in favor of keeping the force. I would argue, I've had several conversations with people who think, that's not necessarily the option that the town should have. So yes, we should be having big town conversations about this. And I think that's what we'll have in the next month or two.
Thank you.
Yeah, may I just follow up on what
Yes.
Chriso said, that yes, this is an important decision, and I'd like to hear more about what the process is after somebody will be appointed interim police chief. But what is the process, the decision-making process? How do we engage the town? This is very much a town-wide decision, and I'd like to hear more about how we engage the town, how the town as a whole comes to a decision.
One last thing.
Yes.
And maybe this concern is not warranted. However, we've recently had a poor track record of doing something, saying it was temporary, and then saying, oh, by the way, the town can't even vote on that. And, here is the paid parking thing. It was stated before, and that makes me nervous about this in a direction that it is probably going. With the paid parking, if it was a trial, I wanted to use trial money and not real money. That wasn't allowed. With this, again, I think it's going down the wrong direction. We've done things like this recently, and I'm ashamed to be a part of some of that because of what was done. And even though it said, no, we're going to do this, and then that happens. And so I'm very concerned that that's what's going to go on here.
Are you referring just specifically to the paid parking, or is there something else?
Well, another thing, certainly with the Montessori school, that was not a great record for us on how that is being handled and managed. And so I have concerns, and I don't want us to go down a road and then say, well, it really wasn't a trial, we're really going to go ahead and do it. Or, it's it's a June 15 date, so therefore we're hoping maybe there's a different select board. Maybe Chris isn't on the select board, even though he's running again. And so that we could do something else because we've got different select board members, and that's probably why it's selected for June 15.
think
I don't
that's
really know. However,
I don't mean to interrupt you, Chris, but
one last thing.
but that's an unfair accusation.
I don't know that it is. It's how I feel. My father also told me, we don't get paid for the easy days. Those are a gimme. Choosing somebody to be the right person to lead the police department is a tough decision. And yes, I agree with Chriso. There should be community involvement. I agree with Ken. We should have an effective process that involves the community in selecting the next chief. I think going about it this way goes down a weird path, a rabbit hole that I don't think is going to be effective and is a disservice to the police officers in town. And like Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Well, this is a tough one.
Well, it's what we're actually talking about right now is not the hard conversation in some ways, but
I agree in principle, I do. And what is abundantly clear is that there's a deep attachment or a deep commitment in this town to the level of safety, the level of police coverage that we have, and to individual police officers who have put in a lot of time and dedication to this community. And I am exceedingly grateful. I know everyone on this board and in the community feels the same. And I take exception to the suggestion that there isn't transparency around this. I know that things move along and it appears that decisions have been made. Decisions have not been made. Suggestions have, we've floated some plans, we've drafted some plans. And the reason why you all are in this room is to be part of the process that we're undertaking. I don't feel any more, I am of the mind that this is of such a magnitude that taking the time to have a deliberative process in town while we have reliable, accountable leadership during this interim time is probably the best strategy. It's a tough call.
Yeah, other things that I get concerned about are, how are the policies aligned? Does the sheriff department operate with the same policy set for use of force, for example? Do they have a policy set that's going to listen to us or the town manager when things come to it, or do they defer to the commissioner when there is something that needs to get
That's a
done?
good question.
I believe they defer to the commissioner, not to us. So we, in the interim period, lose a degree of control of what things are occurring.
Perhaps we could hear directly from the sheriff about that.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing if maybe
Yeah.
Kurt Andrick or Pat Pokey could.
So my understanding is you have the exact same policies. We use the same company called Dirigo Safety, which has the Maine Criminal Justice Academy and the Maine Chiefs of Police Association policies in place. It would just be a review of those just to make sure they're updated. There have been quite a few that have been updated in the last month. So that it sounds like they should be similar, but it'll be working with your team to look at that. But there would be all your policies, working directly with the town manager on personnel issues, those things. So it would not be a consultation with the commission. The only thing consultation with the commission is just to get the contract signed if that's what you guys decide. So.
Thank you.
Allison has.
Yes, Allison.
Feel free to tell me that this is too much putting somebody on the spot, but I am curious after listening to some of this, the Camden police officer, now deputy sheriff, that I was familiar with for the longest period of time in Camden, and I think is really familiar with the culture here, is Kurt Andrick. And I'm just wondering if he has any kind of insight into what people might be thinking, or how we should be thinking about the difference between the town police department and the sheriff's department, and whether any of these fears are valid, which, just basically anything you might have to add to the conversation.
Well, I mean, we don't want to necessarily sway you either way. It's the board's decision. Everyone is right. We've worked here I was here for 26 years. We know all the people, most of the people very well. So, and to answer some of the policy questions, the policies are reviewed by the Attorney General, the Sheriff's Association, the Maine Chiefs of Police, and the Academy. So there are model policies across the state that all law enforcement agencies have to adopt. So most of the policies are fairly standard. So I don't really want to sway you one way or the other. Again, it's the board's decision. It's a temporary decision if that's what you make. It's an interim basis. But again, it's your decision. But I'll take a question if anybody has a question or.
Any questions for Kurt?
What is the role when it comes down to continuing or not continuing I can't remember the proper word for wellness checks, house calls? Where does the county stand on that? Are they currently performing those services at the same level as a town when performing those, when I don't know what your call volume is like and how busy you all are?
Yeah, our call volume is around 13,000 calls a year. The checks that are called daily by the Camden Police wouldn't change. You would still do that. be very little changes in the way the department is run in the next 3 months, if that's what the board chooses to do. So.
Any other questions for Kurt? Allison?
Does the county do wellness checks? And I know there are towns where you operate that, places that don't have their own police department at all. What kinds of, are you doing the typical things that our police department does? Like, things like wellness checks. I do think that is some of the big thing that people are thinking about, those personal connections, the ability to call somebody, the ability to do wellness checks, SAN for seniors, things like that. Does that type of program exist in the county?
We do SAN for seniors, for instance, but the daily checks would be very difficult because that would have to be done either by one of the administrative staff. So we don't currently do that. So I've always said when we have been fully staffed for over a year, which is fortunate to say for police departments in Maine. So we haven't had any staffing changes on the patrol division in over a year. So I've always said when we're fully staffed, we're understaffed. So we're expected to cover 40,000 residents, and also the 14 towns that we're have to directly cover. And then we're also expected to back up all the local police departments on top of that. So it's a pretty heavy load that we have. And we have been doing a fairly good job. We do have a good group of people working for us right now. So we're fortunate. We are fortunate. So there are other programs we certainly would like to look into to try to answer your question, Allison. But as far as the morning calls are concerned, those would continue. Nothing would change.
I wonder if people think about sometimes the towns that have decided to get rid of their police department and then just let an already overtaxed county try to handle everything. And that's not at all what we're contemplating here. We're still having all of the same people doing all of the same things with just some upper level administrative support from the county.
I think I'd like to ask you, Audra, how we could craft the process going forward in order that people's concerns are addressed around what the hiring process would be. I mean, I think we want to assure people that when we say June 26th, whatever the date is that's in this agreement, that we mean that, and that that the input from the citizens will be taken into consideration. Is there a way that we can craft the process so that we have a higher degree of transparency and people are comfortable with the process?
Yeah, I mean, it really would depend on, where you land in terms of what you want to do. If we're going to talk about hiring a police chief, we can absolutely craft a process that's inclusive. Having a hiring advisory group, that's definitely something that we can do. It's also budget time. So if the conversation is around, different models of service delivery or whatever the case may be, we talked with the budget committee about just different tweaks to that process so folks feel more comfortable coming and commenting and participating in the budget process with the budget committee. And so I think that that'll be a great opportunity to have more in-depth conversations about, any level of service change across the organization, particularly if it's going to, be something in the police department. So, and above and beyond just that, the select board, you might choose to have additional meetings to seek public feedback and go to different places to do that outside of, this building. So there are a lot of different things that can be done,
Right.
To try and seek broader opinion and feedback
Yeah.
on whatever direction you all choose to go in.
Have we thought about what the implication might be for home and business owners for if this change, or if we go in the direction of a sheriff department, as far as the protection class that our home insurance is? I'm not an underwriter for insurance, so I don't know. When I contacted my insurance company today, the answer was maybe. I won't know until renewal.
Well, I think we're so far from, I mean, that's certainly, and you brought that up in previous conversations, and I think that that's a really valid
It might be, yeah.
consideration. And, we are a long way off from that type of change, structural
I mean,
change.
the
but-
interim agreement is not, is keeping an independent police department.
Yeah,
Like
there's
we're
no,
not, and that goes to levels of care, like all of those things are what the department does currently. That doesn't change. So I don't know where we are, but I sort of feel like this might be a moment to call the question.
yeah.
I mean, can I ask? Like, can there be a town hall meeting and open this up, something like for the town?
Well, this is what we were just talking
That's-
about, is what the process
That's
would,
what I would.
And
we're getting enough feedback that we're getting the sense that there's the occasion for more public discussion in the interest of transparency, and also to, in fairness to the police department and to the citizenry.
I think
So,
that'd be
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that,
I think I think it's very clear that this is an issue that should be discussed by the entire community. Everyone should have impact. All of the aspects, all of the ideas should be presented and discussed. But again, what we're looking at for tonight is this agreement for the next few months, which I think makes the most sense myself.
so that being said, I will entertain a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to appoint an interim police chief and enter the agreement with the Knox County Sheriff's Department
Second.
as presented in the packet.
Any further discussion from the board?
I just feel that this is setting us up for a wrong path, and I hope you really are considering what amount of control that we're losing in this, and our town identity going down that route, and how it's going to negatively affect our police officers who are in this town.
So
And they no longer, someone has an opportunity for advancement from within, and people should be encouraged to do the resumes, and there should be management from the top in the town that goes ahead and allows that to happen, and make a choice on an interim basis that we're more akin to situation normal. We have one of our own. And again, take no offense, the guys who I know and know me on the sheriff's department, there's no ill feeling there. It's a matter of local priority, working with a group that does have a budget and is not going to rely on the 2025 budget.
Chriso?
Go
Can I
ahead.
make
Sorry,
a-
Chriso.
Can I I'll propose an amendment to my motion, which would say that we are approving this interim agreement, but it is subject to ongoing public conversations in that time frame to decide how we go forward. With that,
Could you be more specific? What?
I can't, I'm not
decision-
going to make, I can't make a motion that goes into the entire process, but I'm just saying that we're going on, in that motion, we're voting to approve this interim, but also voting to have open discussion and process that is not committing us to one particular course of action.
Allison?
Could I just add that I think I would really like to see, and I think many in the community would like to see, as much, or I think probably much more than simply a conversation about the name of the agency that has the police chief or the sheriff or whatever, is a broader discussion about what the goals for the police department are. I think we have a lot to be proud of in the department, but it has also been a very long time since there has been a lot of community discussion about what the priorities of the police department should be, how citizen input can factor into crafting those priorities. I hear a lot of good things from people who actually interact directly with the police department, but I also hear a lot of things that are really frustrating to people and absolute areas of improvement, and that where things could be improved. And so choosing who is going to head up the police department also depends on what the community wants out of their police department. And I hope that we have that larger conversation so that whoever is in charge of it isn't being set up for failure, because no matter what, I think the community would like to have a lot more input into what the priorities of the department should be.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Yeah, I just want to add that our vote seems to have a bearing on the larger discussions and larger decisions about what to do with the police department. On paper, it's just about an interim police chief, but the implications are much larger for the police department. I'd like the opportunity to meet with the police department at some point. Is there any problem, Audra, with going down and getting a tour? I would like to know what services they provide to Camden. Is there?
I think it's best if you do it all together. So if we can
That would be great.
schedule that sometime,
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Maybe a joint thing with the budget committee. I mean, that is where a lot of these discussions take place. And years ago, there were joint select board budget committee tours, but I think involving the budget committee in this whole discussion is important. And the
Because
public.
there are huge budget implications for whatever choice we make. So we have a motion and a slightly amended agreement and a second.
I'm not sure the amendment was seconded.
I don't believe it was. It wasn't.
Allison, would you second the amended?
I mean, the language, I guess, that I would be comfortable with is approving the agreement contingent on the process, contingent on a broader conversation with the public and budget committee surrounding the direction of the police department and the goals of the community.
Are you comfortable
That's
with
fine.
that, Chriso?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor
Of the amendment or of the?
of the
Amended
amended agreement,
Well, the amended motion.
Motion.
the amended motion? All those in favor? Opposed?
McKellar, yes.
Okay. All right, so it carries with that change in place. Thank you all for your input, and we invite you to continue to be part of this conversation. That's what we're here for.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
you consider putting out interest forms for the community, see who might be wanted from the community to be involved?
Sure,
That'd be a good start for the select board to advertise,
sure.
get some names going.
We can do that. Absolutely,
Good start.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So we can make some, it would be like committee interest form.
Regular interest forms would have.
Yeah.
Hold on, can we talk a little bit more about, before we just start a new committee? I don't know if I
Yeah,
could
we're
hear
not-
everything that was said, but that should be a larger conversation about how
Well, so I would,
committee discussion takes place.
Mhm.
I would suggest that at our next select board meeting, we take a good chunk of time to discuss process
Mhm.
and opportunities for public input and what that looks like. It could be workshops, it could be a number of different venues.
Survey.
Right, right.
Very few people want to come down and participate in this, in this way. A lot of people have input that is
Yeah, I think
a
there are
lot
lots
less
of,
passionate.
there are lots of ways that
True.
we can seek and get input on this process.
Okay. That-
One moment.
Yes, I'm
Susan.
sorry, yes.
Sheriff Polkey has a.
I understand this carried, correct? It was a split
Yeah.
vote, though? Okay.
Yes.
So the commission is meeting tomorrow at 3 PM at 62 Union Street in Rockland to also hear this. So I'll bring this to them at that time. I believe the town manager is going to try to attend. So if any of you folks want to also, but also to the public, if you want to attend and address the commission in the same way, 3 o'clock tomorrow, 62 Union Street. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Sheriff.
I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
out of town.
Oh, yeah,
I will unfortunately be out of town tomorrow.
sounds like a road trip. So that concludes the public part of tonight's business, and thank you all for coming out and your thoughtful comments.